Besides using my phone to record a conversation with a person of interest, which resulted in me being charged, I've never been accused of being an early adopter of technology. But the technology landscape is changing rapidly in the form of artificial intelligence, and it's going to impact dramatically on crime. I don't want to be left behind, so that's why I reached out to former detective and guest on this podcast, Graeme Simpfendorfer, to have a chat. For the past few years, Graeme has made it his business to understand AI and see how it can be best used to investigate crime and also, probably more importantly, prevent crime. Graeme is the CEO of Peregrini Investigations, which specialises in using AI in the fight against crime. Now, we can all bury our head in the sand and pretend things are not going to change, but they are. Have a listen to what Graeme has to say. I think it will become obvious that the utilisation of AI is going to be the biggest change in criminal investigations since DNA technology came into play in the early 90s. I found the chat with Graeme fascinating and informative. Now, if you don't want to be left behind in this brave new world of criminal investigation, have a listen to what he has to say. Graeme, thanks for coming on I Catch Killers.
My pleasure, Gary. Good to see you again.
Well, it is good to see you, but I've got a confession to make. I'm a little bit nervous because when I talk technology,
Yep.
the amount of information I don't know can become blatantly obvious, and I don't want to come across as a dummy. So
Yep.
I give you full permission to not laugh at my questions,
Yep.
but just explain it in the most simple terms so I can understand it. Because when it comes to technology, I think if I can understand it, other people can understand it.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find the best way I explain it to some others as if I'm just explaining it to my mum because she
Yeah.
still struggles to turn on the computer.
Yeah.
But I think so many people are in that position. It's changing so rapidly. Everyone's finding it a bit hard to get their head around. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it has changed so rapidly, and when we talk rapidly, we're talking every sort of 6 months. We're having conversations that 6 months ago you wouldn't even comprehend having.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges we are facing in all parts of society is how rapidly it's changing for us that are stuck in the middle trying to understand it.
Yeah.
But then the kids of the next generation that are picking it up so quick and bringing it into their employment already. So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges, but it's also exciting at the same time.
Well, I think you need to well, I half joke, but because I usually get dragged into technology, I don't embrace change too readily, but I'm certainly aware of a situation enough now. You've got to get ahead of this or you're going to get left behind.
Exactly right. And look, we've seen a bit of that over our time, both in the cops and just in life. We've seen all these massive changes, introductions of just computers and emails and how business is done electronically, tapping your phone to pay. You know, these things were unheard of 20, 30 years ago. So
and now it's just part of day-to-day living.
That's right.
I remember the days, and you might, when I first started, it was manual typewriters.
Yep.
And then when the electronic typewriters came in, there was a couple of old detectives that, why would I need an electronic typewriter?
Yep.
And then these stupid things, computers came in that would never catch on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, and probably in the scheme of things it wasn't. But that highlights, I guess, how rapid this is changing, and it's another technological change that's going to happen really quick in the next couple of years to 5 years, and we may look back in 10 and almost laugh at some of these days. Yeah.
What have you been doing since you've been out of the police? You spent 27 years in the Victorian police working as a detective. What have you been? How long have you been out, and what have you been doing?
Yeah, well, it was actually 4 years ago last week, so it's gone really quickly. Took me a couple of years to really find myself again and that identity that we've probably spoken of many times, but I eventually got around to starting my own company, Peregrine Investigations and Consultancy. And in that space, we're looking at risk and security for the private sector, but also some private investigations on that higher end scale of finding people that don't want to be found. Thanks to some previous stuff with obviously Channel 10.
Yeah. And just for the listeners that don't know, that I'm also sitting opposite a TV star in part, because you're on the after you left the cops, you were on the show called The Hunted.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hunted came to our screens a couple of years ago now, and that's what led me to part of this work. So the people I met through Hunted is now who I work with and collaborate with in the private sector. So it's amazing how these doors open up.
And the premise of that show was someone just citizens. It was a reality TV show, but was based on the ability of law enforcement to track down people that were on the run.
Yeah, what we did just about day in, day out in the job, but regular citizens thought they'd give it a go, try and avoid us, and they had 21 days to try and avoid the team of hunters for the reality show, and a lot of fun, but just amazing.
Did that upskill you, like what was available? Like people often assume that law enforcement is at cutting edge, but when technology changes, sometimes law enforcement's a little bit behind.
It sure did. The team that was put together in the cyber aspect, so everything that was to do with cyber, whether it was online, open source, dark web, spoofing on different machines and trying to pretend or trick the people at the other end as to who they were. It was a whole new world to me, and like we've just said, I had to learn really quick. Yeah. And that's obviously led me on to now what I do in the private sector with Peregrine.
Okay. You've been on the podcast before, and we talked about your career and that, but just for people that haven't listened to that episode, just give us a bit by way of background of your policing career when you're in Victorian police. Yeah,
for sure, yeah. So just over 27 years in the end before I called time on that. Went through all the ranks as usual, up from working the van in the streets of Melbourne, and then finally into the crime squads with a little bit of time at homicide, armed robbery and sex offence, child abuse units. 2009, made the move up to the bush, up to Wodonga, up on the border with New South Wales, and then ran the detectives office up there for then about the next 10 years through Black Saturday, Black Summer and all the different events we had up there, and that's where I still am. I love it.
Okay. Well, we won't revisit your police career, but if people want to hear about your police career, you had some fascinating cases and a lot of stories to tell that career police tend to carry with them. Another thing that you are doing is you're very much involved in the advocacy for veteran police.
Yeah, that's right.
What's motivated you for that?
I think, as I sort of alluded to before, that first couple of years out for me, I was struggling, and it was around those COVID times or post-COVID where just trying to find your identity again. People would ask, what do you do for work? And I struggled to come up with an answer and how I felt because, I used to be a police officer, or I'm not sure what I do anymore.
It's funny because that is your identity, and I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, because you go through life and regardless of everything else you do or achieve in your life, you're identified as a policeman and it becomes your identity. So I do understand what you're saying.
Exactly right. So that that journey and that couple of years, which was pretty rough, some highs and lows, but come out the other side eventually. With that, I then saw so many mates, and you would see it too, that are going through the same thing, and almost the same issues of that lack of identity, loss of identity, I should say. What's my purpose now? Because your purpose was to serve your community, serve your state, and you had your team and your tribe around you, and when that's gone, who am I now? So I saw so many people struggling with that, and it was around the same time as Police Veterans Victoria kicked off, sort of a new initiative to fill that gap. Yeah. Because if you didn't go out on work cover, or if you didn't go out physically or mentally unwell, you sort of went into a different bucket of no man's land of just you're gone.
Yeah,
so
there's no contact.
Yeah, so the Police Veterans Victoria was starting, and I think a lot of states are doing a similar thing, so started to work with them around helping people that were getting out. So we now either help those that are transitioning out, or we help sort of the very senior people in their later stages of life that are struggling, but they could connect with us because we understand what it was like to work in the job, and we just help them through life, and there's simple things that they might be struggling with finances or struggling with relationships, and we just sit down and have a coffee with them and have a chat. So I really enjoy that.
I think it's worthwhile in that, and I speak with a lot of military guys, and they spend 12 months going through their basic training and turning them into soldiers and becoming part of the military, and then when they leave, they're just cut off. Same with police. We go through the academy, and they're breaking you down and rolling you out as a cop. It would be, and I don't think it'd be that expensive. Just the last couple of months of anyone's career, if they're going out, at their own timing, wouldn't it be good if they did a decompression basically?
Correct.
Before they and help them on the little things that you need to pick up after you've left the police.
That's right. All those things about just starting your own business, or what's that next step, whether it's another full-time role or you start your own business, just all those little things on life that are outside the job can be a lot for some people. So, yeah, it's needed. There's a gap there for sure, and I think there's a lot of good space. Some programs like Beyond the Badge and the police veterans do a lot of work, but there's more that can be done, that's for sure.
Well, good on you for putting some effort in there, and I know in the conversations that I had with you too, you were touched by the murder of the 2 police officers down in Victoria recently. You knew one of them very well. Yeah,
well, that's the area I worked in, so, the Wangaratta areas, we would work with them almost daily, if not weekly, of working alongside some of those guys, and very sad to watch that, and that's part of that grief process as well. That I had a real sort of personal struggle with. I'm out, but I want to help. Yeah, but I've had to step away, and how can I help in other ways? And it was just sort of a few messages here and there to people say, if you need to have a chat, I'm here. Do your best, but look after yourself as well. So really close to home, that one, and will be for obviously a long time.
Because that the type of situation, especially in a small community in a rural area, that would hit very hard. Everyone would know the people.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knew someone, and the people that responded to right from ambulance to police to the community, the pubs, and just the local businesses that are affected by that search and still are. It's really tough, and once that noise sort of stops and things sort of start to die down a little, that's where the real struggle can really come in, and that's when people's mental well-being can really take a hit.
The focus, it's just that stage of going through the grief, and then the focus of dealing with it, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet and you're left to your own thoughts.
That's a dangerous time. So that's the time I like to step in a little bit more, lean a bit closer, and how you're really going, how you're doing, because that noise has stopped. So
okay. All right, well, AI is the topic of discussion today, and quite ironically, I've used AI to get a description of what AI is. So I'm going to read this out, and then we'll, just for those that don't know AI, this is the way AI describes itself. AI, or artificial intelligence, is the ability of computer systems to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem-solving, decision-making, and understanding language. It is a field of computer science that uses algorithms and data to enable machines to perceive their environment, learn from experiences, and make decisions or take actions to achieve goals. AI can be found in everyday applications like virtual assistants, recommendation systems, and advanced web search engines. Okay, that's AI's definition of AI. There's a lot there, and my thinking of that's describing what we as a human do with our brain.
Exactly, and that's, I guess, that artificial intelligence piece, isn't it, AI? So, but it's only as good as what it develops on itself. So as it sort of alluded to, it's doing large analysis of data or problems that the human brain or the human would take hours and hours and hours, if not days or weeks, to do, and it'll do it rapidly, in seconds.
Well, using a basic example, if we were talking, if we keep it related to a crime or a court matter, if case law, a particular type of case law, and precedence is very heavily relied upon in court. Case law, what's the statute, what are the proofs of a certain offence? All that is readily available on AI.
That's right.
And before, that would be a case of, we all had those old law books that we'd keep in our office, and the detectives looking through case law, trying to work out what way to approach an investigation or present a matter at court. It's incredible what's readily available at the fingertips.
That's right, and it's so readily available, but then it's a matter of also then interpreting that to your case or your particular set of circumstances. So, it's great to be able to draw that data in from so many volumes of, the back walls will fill with those books that we talked of. Where would you go to find that? Whereas the AI can take you straight to the piece that you need, that piece of legislation or the case law, and then you as a human element can apply that to your case or your situation. So it's just so time it just saves you so much time, and I absolutely swear by it now, and obviously now that's
Well,
part of my world.
Well, like going through the detectives course, and I would imagine it would have been very similar for you. A lot of it was learning virtually parrot form about the Crimes Act,
Yep.
the proofs of an offence, that type of thing, just drummed into you, so
That's
you,
right.
so you knew what it was. Now that's readily available.
Yeah, no excuse now to miss an element of a charge or a point of proof to prove a case. It's all there, ready to go, and I guess that's part of where AI could be used to assist going forward in that next step of what does this look like for investigators.
So when we talk AI, like I think you can have the conversation on the street now, and 90% of people know what you're talking about and acknowledge they've used it in some form. But when has that sort of come into favour?
I think over the last couple of years, everyone's sort of embraced the idea, because it's been everywhere. Whether it's your ChatGPT to help draft things or research things. We've seen it within the school items. I think my 16-year-old daughter will use ChatGPT every now and again for some stuff, but I think we've really seen the last couple of years, and people are starting to obviously lean into that a bit more and scratch a bit deeper than just saying, AI is everything. Yeah. Well, AI can be everything, but it actually, you need to look at what is the problem or what is the issue I'm looking to solve here, or what do I want AI for? Okay. And that's probably the key point, because you can't just say, let's just integrate AI into investigations. Well, what part of an investigation do you want it to look at?
How does it come into play?
Yeah, so that's the broader question that needs a lot more thought, and there's so many elements to it, which I'm sure we'll go through. But
someone brought up, and it was going back probably 12 months or so, and it was someone sitting here, I think it was a barrister, that we were talking about how AI could be used, and there was a case where the courts rejected it because, and I can't remember the specific offence, but if a police officer had reasonable cause to stop and detain a person, police officers, so what was acting on my mind at the time? Yep. And someone answered that I did because it wasn't facial identification, but something came up from a computer system. So yep. The police officer was then cross-examined by the barrister, breaking it down. So you didn't have reasonable cause, and broke it down to the point where the officer said, well, actually I didn't, but I had it based on that, and the matter was thrown out.
Yeah, wow, yeah. At what point did you form your opinion or your belief? Well, I didn't form it.
What was it based on?
Yeah.
So ChatGPT, I've embraced it in the past, I'd say 12 months, but explain to people what that is.
Yeah, well, ChatGPT is, I guess, a whole large system of data that's worldwide, but it's not Australian, so it's obviously has a bias towards that Western world, but not particularly Australia. Yep. But you can ask it anything. You can ask it to write you a script for a book or a movie, write you a novel, write you emails, or ask about the pyramids, and it's just a large data set of all the information basically that draws off the web or whatever data is actually put into it. So it's very broad, but you can just about ask it to do anything or produce anything, produce a photo, produce a recording, and anything. So the sky's the limit.
With my reluctance to use it, and I pay homage to my son, he dragged me into the world about using ChatGPT. I argued that it feels like it's cheating, like it was to do a report, like a report on something. It might be a report to a council about something. He's going, you can do that on ChatGPT. What are you talking about? Like, I know how to do reports. Yep. And he posed a hypothetical question. We put it to ChatGPT, and I'm reading it going, Jesus, that's done it better than I could. And my reluctance was, so I argued back, going, but that's cheating. I want to do it. I'm capable of doing it. And he said these words to me, and it sort of resonated with me and changed my thinking on it. He said, when you went to university and did your degree, were you relying on textbooks to get information? And then as it evolved, were you relying on the internet to get information to help with it? Well, this is just the next step. It's evolved. So you're not going to embrace technology. You stick with your textbooks, Dad. You'll go really right. Good if you can find them anymore. That is how it's evolved, isn't it? And it's something that we've got to embrace. There's no ethical or moral issue against using the available technology.
No, I don't think so. And I think it's time saving for me. I embrace it almost every day. And as you said, it's writing either a report or writing an email. It could be absolutely anything, but it's that time saving of, yes, you can write it.
Yeah.
But it spits it out to you in a format that you can just about cut and paste into your email or your document, but you still fact check it. I think some of those issues where people have been caught out is, these large reports that might be a couple of 100 pages. You've got to have that human lens across it to check it and put in your own style. So I know how I like to write and draft things, and it depends on who your audience is. If you know that person, so you add your personal lens. Yeah. Or if it's to counsel, then you add your facts. But you're just fact checking, and it just saves so much time. So that report that you probably would have written yourself may have taken 30 minutes to an hour or so to really nail it all down.
Get your head around the structure, because that's the slow part of, once I've got the structure in my head or I'm seeing it on paper, that's right. That's what I've got to address. And that's what it provided. I've used it and tested it. I was looking at a particular investigation and looking at the people involved, and it came back with the wrong names. Like I knew the investigator involved or the detective involved, and I asked the question. It came back, and I corrected it and said, well, that person wasn't even involved in that case. Yep. I got back, we're sorry, we'll correct that. So there are failings of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's the I guess my main point to those that I talked to about this. Yeah. You must fact check it. Yeah. You must look at it and have a good read of what it is. So you can't just cut, paste and send. You'll get caught out. And I think there's already been some pretty large organisations in that space. We won't talk about that. But yeah, it's a tool. And I think if the more efficient and effective you can be at using that tool, it just adds value. That's what I'm finding.
I think you talk about people getting caught out. I think there was a barrister that was closing submissions and citing case law, and it was identified that those cases don't even exist. So clearly he or she embraced that, using that AI to present a closing argument, which I'm sure it could do very well. Yep. But you do need to fact check over it, don't you?
You do, yeah, that's right. And otherwise it's very embarrassing if not, the implications there. Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing professionally. But yeah, you got to fact check. You got to look at what it is. But for me, it's about saving that time. It's not having to worry about the structure. Yeah, particularly for the larger pieces. So yeah, it's a great benefit to me day to day.
Looking at let's pick one aspect of AI, how it could be used in criminal investigations. A large part of our work as police officers were locating people. Invariably, you're looking for the offender. It could be the victim you're looking for, or even witnesses. Yeah. Facial identification. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, so facial recognition technology, or FRT, well advanced globally. We're a bit behind the 8 ball here in Australia, and we're finding a bit of that is the case across the park, but it's well advanced. It's actually really accurate these days, but it's only as good as what you can put into it. Yeah. So again, like we've experienced, you get your CCTV back of your drive-by shooting, or your people that have run away from committing their murder, and you might have some really ordinary footage. That's the point where AI can hopefully step up, either clean it up, and then I guess run that facial recognition technology across data sets that are already available, and that's the gap that is needed. So you remember in the days you'd actually either put your circular out around the police. Does anyone know this guy?
Pin up in the front, over the front counter of the police station in the detective's office. And
I think I've only ever had one result. Yeah, because it was fresh in that investigator's mind. Oh, I put that guy in last week. That's this fellow. Yeah, but out of 27 years, that's one. So asking people to do that internally, but then we've seen the amount of times you would then ask the public, because it's your last resort. We need to find this person, and putting that face image out to the public. Yeah, and that has its own inherent issues, doesn't it? So you get everyone ringing in.
The false sightings and different things.
I know that person, and you end up with another 100 Crime Stoppers investigation reports that you have to go into.
How accurate is it? Like, obviously, a picture of my face, if I was seen walking down the main street of Sydney, is it that capacity that they could say, oh, if you're looking for Jubilant, he was in the main street of Sydney
100%.
2 hours ago?
100%. Yeah, and some... and we talked about time and saving. It's very accurate, and that's what I mean by globally. It's it's there.
It's what's it go from? The measurements between the eyes, the tip of the nose,
correct,
everything.
So many
like the
different
airport
points.
identification
Correct.
when you come through.
Yeah, exactly
customs.
like you do as you come through customs, and that's the FRT technology piece. But how you then put that into investigations is the tricky bit, because you need to, if you're going to be comparing against other systems, whether it's driver's licenses or your corrections photos, they're the data sets you want to compare against, but there's the ethical aspects and the privacy concerns that go with that. So that's probably the piece that still needs to be plugged in here in Australia.
Because we've got to protect people's privacy.
100%, yeah. And that's the issue, where if we're using some of these systems that are offshore, you're sending an image of someone that is one of our citizens that may or may not be your accused. We're sending that offshore overseas.
Right.
That's why it needs to be more sovereign based, and it needs to be developed here for our culture, for our country, and make it safe.
What's the dangers of that, Graeme? Like you're saying, we need it as a sovereign system, and we need police to have the proper authority, or law enforcement to have the proper authority. Like, we don't want law enforcement to know every move that you're made. Correct. So what's how does that work? Do law enforcement need their own system, or how do we protect?
Well, that you just led me straight into what my business is, so thank you. Yeah,
so, there you go.
You need Peregrine AI. So
I fed you the line.
Thank you very much.
The music plays.
Look, there's a number of aspects there. Number one's ethics. There are 9 principles that the Australia and New Zealand Policing Advisory Agency have given to all law enforcement across the country. Those 9 principles are, trying to rattle them all off the top of my head, but ethics, accountability, and so many different finite points that exactly what we're talking about, protecting the community's interests. But there's also the law enforcement side. Our community expects us to catch your murderers, catch your sexual offenders. So in that regard, it's got to be built, in my view, here, because we don't want our data system, particularly a government data system, being offshore.
Well, we can't control.
It raises so many issues, doesn't it? Security, national security, individual security. So if it's built here, we've got more control of it, so it can be independently audited. You can actually have a conversation with the people that are building those large models and develop it for our bias. So if we're putting in a bias that has an American or a UK lens, then you may be drawing in UK case law, or looking at American systems or American footage. You need to plug it into what is Australian and purely Australian. But you need the access to those data sets, and that's where the nervousness is. So I'm already talking with some police forces and a company by the name of Main Code, and Dave Lemphers and his team at Main Code, that are building these massive data centres. Incredible investment. We're talking millions and millions of dollars of investment to have the data centres here in Australia. Right. Which is step number 1.
And in the data centres, they'd have all that information captured, and to access that, it would be by application. If we were looking for a person that was wanted, we would track their phone. But invariably, you needed authority to track the phone. You need the approval from the court, or it needed to be signed off at some level. Is that the type of safeguards you're talking about? Because we don't need to track you with your phone now, but if I'm going, where is that, Graeme? I need to speak to him about this matter, and put it out there. Okay, he was here 3 hours ago. He's here right now, and we go grab you. Is that the type of privacy that you're concerned that could be invaded?
Yeah, exactly right. And that's why it still needs to have a process, which I'm sure the E-Safety Commission is looking at. It still needs to have a process of authority that needs to go through. So you need an independent auditor to look at. In our scenario, we're looking at independent auditors to oversee, in fairness, to what we're trying to build. Not dissimilar to, in Victoria, it's the Office of Police Integrity. So the OPI would overlook all warrants.
We have the equivalent of LEC here in New South Wales.
So that's the level of trust that people need to have in any system that's going to be built. It's very difficult to have that trust if you're going to build it offshore. So we build it here, and independently audited by Australians. But in answer to your question, I guess, in my view, crimes against the person. So your homicides, armed robberies, sex offences.
They're the things that we should be able to access it for.
They're the things that I think our community would expect us to be able to act on. But you got to be able to plug into these systems. So in the scenario, if you're just wandering down Circular Quay, or you're wandering down Bourke Street, Melbourne, you need to be able to plug into those systems. And that's where the collaboration and partnership needs to
And
come
are
in.
they government systems, or because businesses have their CCTV licensed premises? Every business has cameras there. Are we talking about gathering all that information, or only government authorised ones?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I guess it depends on the appetite on how far it goes. So some are privately run.
Yep.
Obviously, the City of Melbourne runs the Safe City cameras
Yes.
in Victoria,
Yep.
but Victoria Police already have access to that live. Again, it's about doing it smarter.
Yep.
So if you are looking for someone that's just committed a very serious crime, we need to know where this person is now. They've just fired a shot through some building in middle of Melbourne. Here's the image. We've got it. It's just going to expedite things. Yeah. So rather than trying to look at phone records or a triangulation that can be a little bit inaccurate, if you can plug that into that system, it will using the facial recognition technology. Yeah. It does have the capacity to find them immediately and then alert us where that person is.
How hard is it then with people going on the run in this day and age?
It's very hard.
I like people often ask me that, and you got the alleged shooting by Desmond Freeman down there in Victoria, that it's been months that they're looking for him. But the type of technology we're talking about now is only applicable to the environment, and if he's in the bush, we haven't got that advantage.
No, that's right, and that's why I think they've brought in, and I'm not that close to it, I think they've brought in thermal imaging and different things into that area. But look, I worked up there for so many years, and you were doing searches for people that were lost, and they wanted to be found, and we couldn't find them.
It's tough country, isn't it? Rough and desolate country.
It's just so vast, so it's a challenging time. But look, I'm just so glad that they're continuing that search and continuing the fight to bring him to justice. Oh,
well, they're putting all the resources in, and we need to find out what's happened and where he is, whether he's still with us or if he's not. Yeah,
but you raise a good point, and people out there would go, but that's it's my right to be able to walk around the city without being tracked by the government. I guess the lens that I'm trying to put on it, and hopefully we get to the point, is the systems won't be bothered by you. It's looking for the person that's just done the drive-by shooting or committed the murder or committed the sexual assault. And of course, everyone would agree, we want that person caught. That's the piece that needs to come in here, not tracking everyone's single movements. And that's the lens of auditing those systems to make sure that they're being accessed appropriately. No different to any of the systems we've gone through in policing, where if you access it for the wrong reason, high chance you'll lose your job.
Are we in a situation like the way AI is rapidly evolving, that realistically people, the government, Big Brother, will know where each and every one of us are at any time?
Well, if you commit a serious crime, yeah. So look, it's hard to. The more urban we are, the more you're going to go under cameras.
I think from I look at my day today. I come here, my phone would be pinging off towers. I go and use a credit card at the store. They know I'm there.
Yep.
My car goes through down the road. There's images of that. It's pretty much where we're at now, isn't it?
It's right. It's there now, and that's where AI will expedite that and bring it all together. So like our definition at the start was, it's taking large sets of data, large sets of information, pulling it all together. Yeah. There's already AI out there that, the old case of either an armed robbery or something, you'll go to 20, 30 different places and get all their CCTV. You collect it all because you don't want it to get lost. Some systems rewrite after a week or a month, and you don't want to be 2 months down the track and go, oh gosh, they actually dumped the gun in a bin around the corner.
You want it.
And we missed it.
And timely, and it was time consuming going through that.
So there is AI already available that you can get all of those 30 different businesses' cameras that might, for argument's sake, have 10 cameras each. There's 300 cameras you've got to go through. Well, the AI will pull all of that together.
I remember how time-consuming that was. We'd grab, we got footage from 10 CCTV cameras, but it would take weeks to go through.
That's right. And who do we give that job to?
The junior person.
Yeah, that's right. Or you had to go through it all yourself, and that's the piece. That's the saving of time. So you can prevent the next armed robbery or the next sexual assault because you're straight onto that person's identity much faster than you would have been if you're trying to go through it all yourself.
The argument, and I've heard this argument when we talk fingerprints. I hear it in DNA, when DNA evolved and that, and people would go, like there was a suggestion that fingerprints and DNA should be taken from everyone because people assume we've got fingerprints of everyone. We don't necessarily have fingerprints of anyone. They've got to have come before the system. With DNA, like, why not get everyone's DNA on the day that they're born? Why not get everyone's fingerprints, everything like that? And people would often say, well, I've got nothing to hide. I don't care if people know. I was of that view earlier, maybe throughout my police career. I didn't give it a lot of thought. Since I've left the police and certainly, the battles I've had with court system and taking on Big Brother, it does sort of does scare me. And so what I'm saying, that public opinion, well, who cares if you don't do nothing wrong? You've got nothing to hide. But there is an aspect of an invasion of privacy that I'm not comfortable with.
I've got to agree with you with that. I'm exactly the same. Through my policing career, if you haven't done anything wrong, what have you got to worry about? Yeah. But now on the other side of the fence, I think it's really, it's more important to me to have that security, that number one, it's my information, it's my DNA, doing it out there. And as you say, taking on Big Brother. And we've seen errors in cases through DNA. We've seen errors in criminal cases. So it's important to have the integrity of these systems built right from the outset. If we're looking at AI, how it's built from the outset.
Well, it's interesting, and that's been the theme of your discussion, is about the integrity and the ethics involved in it, because it is something that could be abused. I think a lot of us felt aggrieved by during the COVID times, where everywhere you had to go, you had to scan in, and that frustrated me. I didn't like that, because police or the government were saying, look, this will not be used for anything other than tracking a COVID case. I say bullshit.
I call bullshit too.
Because I know if there was a murder, I would get access to that information. Where if I was looking for you during COVID and you'd scanned into such and such a place, we'd get that information.
Yeah, well, we had an example of that on the border. So we're on the border with New South Wales, which is obviously closed. And we had a shooting in central Wodonga. We got the car really quickly because it was not much footage to go through. When we went, we know what that car is. We put that information out to the checkpoint. Bang, got him 10 minutes after the shooting. Different to scanning in somewhere, but it was Big Brother was there the whole time. And look, I was very anxious about that whole time, and I didn't enjoy the job at that time. I think a lot of cops went, I didn't sign up for this.
Well, down in Victoria, and I saw it. I just got out of the police before the lockdowns happened, and I wouldn't have liked to be a police officer in those times. I think we were forced to enforce the law, which is our job and what we sign up to. But I don't think our hearts would have been in it, a lot of it, and the 9 p.m. curfews.
Curfews. Trying to stop kids from playing in parks and... oh my God.
Don't go down to the beach. All right, well, we could do a whole nother podcast with you and I whinging about that. But, it was, that just, to me, it showed how power corrupted.
It is, but it's a really important piece of the discussion on development of AI and what does it mean. And that's, again, and sort of go on about, that's why it needs to be done here, so we can control it. And that was part of my passion of getting involved in it in the first place, because I could see a real need for it. But I can actually see how this can benefit saving so much time for investigators, quickly identifying offenders to stop that second offence, but also helping the court process. We've got horrendous waits and delays through court. The lawyer piece on the other side, for them to understand all the data information. There is a real space for it, but it's got to be developed ethically, morally, and I feel what better person to I guess develop it than someone that's been through it and lived it and knows what's needed.
Well, it can be, power can corrupt and it can be abused, but give me a sense of how it changes the way we'd approach a criminal investigation. And we're talking, you've only left 4 years ago, so it's relatively recent. How do you see the potential for it to change criminal investigation?
Yeah, I'll probably give a real, hopefully, basic case. So, a drive-by shooting or a murder, if you will, so the getaway car. You get it on footage. So, the initial action is always, canvassing your witnesses, canvassing for CCTV. It's everywhere if it's urban. So you do get your piece of CCTV that has the car driving off at speed away from the shooting. We've seen it on TV a million times. And you would have sat around the table in the office talking about, is that a 2019 Holden Commodore VS, VX? What type of car is that? You need to identify exactly what it is. AI will be able to do that, and that's something we're looking at with Peregrine is being able to build a data set of vehicles. It's a known quantity. There's no, it's not like a fingerprint where everyone has one. There's only so many models of vehicles in the world. So an AI program developed for law enforcement would quickly identify immediately that is a 2019 Holden Commodore, certain model, the rims are changed, or whatever aspect or whatever unique piece of that car is, and it's 100% accurate.
See, that in itself would be beneficial, and you brought me crashing back into my time in the Armed Hold-Up Squad when we were always tracking cars, and we would go to the manufacturer, and this is what we've got, and then it'd take a long time to get that, and it was always opinion-based, but you're saying with AI, the right system, it go, bang, this is a car you're looking for.
Well, it's a fixed data set, isn't it? So, if you're loading in every single car that's ever been manufactured, it'll find it. And it'll find it quickly. So we know the power of knowing that piece of information investigation as early as possible is critical. And then we talked before about if you did not know that vehicle and you go to the media or the public about, can you help us find this car, or we're looking for this particular car, and if you get it wrong, you can't undo that.
So, no, well, that was you had to hold back sometimes too, because if you put out it's the wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so that's a real basic example of. And that can then change your tactics. So if you've quickly identified the car, you've quickly identified what make and model it is, you may then be able to look at the identity of that vehicle, whether it's the rego, and plug it in. But then you can track it across where it went from there. So there's a lot that can change in that simple example of just that one piece of knowledge of knowing the make and model of your getaway car.
Okay, I can see the benefits there, and if we can get, and the old adage is, get the police out on the streets where we need them, and I see in Victoria, I heard them say that they're bringing in a policy where they're going to have more public servants doing work that police have done to free up the police because they're struggling with. I think that's a good idea. Maybe if we embrace AI in law enforcement and don't, quite often I found in law enforcement, and you would have seen this too, when technology changes, invariably we wait a little bit.
Yes.
And then we're reaching out to the experts outside the police. Right. Can you give us a hand? Yep. It'd be good if police got on the front foot, law enforcement got on the front foot with this.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the trigger point at the moment is it. Without telling government or policing what they need to do, I've now lived on the other side. You can't do it on your own. One, funding. It's not cheap. And show me a government that's got millions of dollars to invest in AI for their own system. I've been at a few conferences lately around the frustrations that are shared by very senior police saying, when is the corporate world going to help? Because it's needed. And that's, I guess, where we come in. And it's certainly not cheap. And if there's investors there that want to come on board and give me a hand, that'd be great. But you've got to align yourself with the right people. This isn't about profit. It's about building something that will work for our community, make it safer. And as you say, make the investigators' time more out on the road rather than behind a computer, putting briefs of evidence together, going through CCTV, trying to identify a vehicle, or going through phone records. Even those things, hours and hours and hours of work to work through that. People think we have that already. The amount of conversations I have with corporates that, don't the cops have this? Sorry. No, it's funded through state governments and federal governments. It's a real challenge. So there are some partnerships out there. I know Monash Uni and Australian Federal Police have an amazing program through the ALX lab. Artificial Intelligence for Law Enforcement Community Safety. They do an amazing amount of work around the child exploitation and child sexual material online. They're using AI to help with that, which is fantastic because it protects our kids. But there's more pieces that can be done, and that sort of circles all the way around to, AI can be anything, but you've got to find out what is the problem you want to solve. And it's the same in law enforcement. You've got to pick what's going to be the most effective and efficient way to probably save time, which is cost of cops out on the street. And I understand why they're employing public servants, because the end game is you want to have more visible presence.
Well, and at the risk of losing listeners because it's so boring, and I know you would have found it boring, but the admin side of policing, even to the point of rostering and how much time that would take up. Now, AI, like ChatGPT, could work out the roster so simply. And so we could free up administrative things like that.
For sure, and the cost in labour alone. Huge. There's I'd hate to think how many cops are back out in the street.
Well, handling of exhibits, tracking, and I know, and I assume Victoria would have been the same, that New South Wales, we upskilled on that because gone were the days of the old exhibit book and where is that missing exhibit type situation. Right. Oh, that's right, it was in Graham's ceiling.
That's right. Oops.
That so all that should, in fact, free up police to do what police should be doing, and that's enforcing the law and investigating crimes when they've occurred.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the point, I guess, and that's where we are. We're at this real juncture of, do we lean into it? Do we trust it? Yeah. But you've got to have the confidence and partner with a corporate to trust to build that. And there's a space that law enforcement are heavily involved in that, for sure. But you've got to be able to fund it, and that's the big piece. It's not cheap. And
you need those checks and balances. And like when DNA came in, and I think it was the early 90s, and the first case, it was one of the early cases that DNA was used. It confused hell out of me. When it first started, it was a horrific murder of an elderly lady in a house, and she'd been sexually assaulted, and we had a good suspect, and we got the suspect's DNA, and it didn't match, and that everything else was pointing this is a person. And eventually we got onto another person, the DNA, and there was no admissions from him initially, but the DNA told us this is a person you're looking for because semen was left at the crime scene. Yeah. And it blew me away in that, we can charge a person with murder based on this information. Yeah. But that's how things evolve, isn't it?
Correct. And that's what juries tend to expect now too. Yeah. Where's the forensic evidence? Yeah. Where's the CCTV? How did we ever convict anyone before we had all this? We look now in 2025. If a case doesn't have DNA, if it doesn't have a fingerprint, doesn't have an eyewitness identification.
And if it's that scientifically based evidence that's irrefutable, it carries a lot more weight with the jury. But we've got to be careful because is it Queensland, the laboratories was having a lot of problems and it didn't stand up to the scrutiny?
That's right, yeah.
And that could be the case where we fall into the AI world if we don't make sure we have the proper standards and regulations.
That's right, and that's why it's so critical to build purpose-built.
Data analysis and evidence gathering. Yep. A lot of the work on the complex investigations, particularly when I was in homicide and you worked homicide, you are overwhelmed with information that comes in, and that is the real struggle you have to just sift through what's important and what's not. You get a good analyst, and an analyst in the way that what I considered a good analyst in my time was someone that could retain information, could read statements and pick up little pieces. Oh, there was a red car seen in this witness's statement, and someone else mentioned the red car in that street 2 weeks ago. These little things. Yeah. AI, I could see AI just freeing that up.
Exactly. Yep. It's solving problems. Yep. It's understanding the data and understanding the information. And if you're plugging all that information into your case and into your system, and you want to know where is a red car mentioned every single time in every witness statement or every bit of CCTV footage, it won't only just tell you where it is, it can timeline it for you. Yeah. So, trying to put the chain of events and chain of circumstances of your case together when you're definitely tracking someone that's been over a matter of weeks in the lead up to something or post-conviction or post-offence as well, it'll timeline it all out for you, which it'll do it in seconds. But then you've got to validate it. And then you've got to check it. But it's removing those hours and hours and hours. And we're not just talking 4 or 5 hours. I think we've said before, it's weeks, if not months, of putting a brief together.
I still remember, and it was a hard time in policing. When I say hard, it was worthwhile, but it was sitting in an office for about 4 months on my own, going through a brief of evidence, reviewing an old homicide. 3 kids. It was a serial killer. It was a Barraville one. Yep. And reading statements that were taken in the 90s that weren't entered on computers, so you couldn't use the computers to find the information, and literally going through, highlighting this, and then have to keep my head around the whole investigation so I'm not missing anything. We didn't have an analyst attached to the investigation. In fact, I was the only one working on it. Yeah. So it was literally sitting in a room for 3 to 4 months, making notes and making sure I didn't miss any information. And I look back at something like that now, and it was when I say mind-numbing, it was just hard work. It was a hard slog. And that could be literally done in a matter of minutes.
Correct. 100% it can be. And it'll actually then try and identify where your gaps are or where you need to be if you can train it to think like an investigator.
Yeah.
And that's probably the bit I'm most worried about is we don't then get lazy investigators. We're not 20 years down the track going, these teams can't think for themselves. They can't think outside the box. You've still got to have that skill.
You brought up something that this is my silly mind ticking over. I learnt how to do affidavits. I learnt how to type up a fact sheet. I learnt how to take a witness statement. And that was the skills I believe I had as a detective. They were hard-earned skills. It didn't come natural. It was trial and error and learning and experience and learning every day. Now, to do a set of facts, you could in fact just put in brief information and ask the computer system, AI, to present a set of facts for the local court or a set of facts for the district court, or this is going to the Supreme Court. A comprehensive set of facts with reference to where the material was from.
You've just explained Peregrine AI. Thanks, Gary.
Oh, sorry. Why didn't I think of that business? But that is so difficult to do and learn. Now, if I had read a set of facts that came from AI, I could, because of my experience, look and go, no, that's not right. We don't need that. But if people don't learn that skill to start with, what you've just said is a concern.
Challenge.
And it's not just, we're talking law enforcement here, we're talking detectives because it's a world we know, but it's across the board, isn't it?
Yeah, barristers, lawyers, it's everyone across the board. But I feel the benefits far outweigh the negatives, and I think that's an important piece of moving through to that next stage of embracing it, but making sure we don't lose sight of how we then skill our people to fact check properly to make sure that it's accurate, because it will cross-reference. So you get 100 statements from your homicide brief or 200 statements from your homicide brief, give me those facts and circumstances for the court. It'll cross-reference everything for you and your exhibits and timeline it for you and put in the language that the courts want, that the barristers want. Defence can better understand a case and your prosecutors can better understand it. So it should be, in theory, expediting all of those concerns, and your case conferences are very clear as to what are the points in issue here. And everyone can agree, rather than going through volumes and volumes of, we've all wheeled in trolleys worth of evidence into the court. It definitely has its place, but we need to make sure that people still keep their skills in, as you said, understanding what the courts want, what the investigators need, and what the law is.
Well, to give an example, I'm just thinking when you were saying that, it wasn't unusual to get a 20-page statement in a homicide investigation. It sounds a lot, but if you go in nutting down into the finite detail, or you do a ERISP interview, an electronic interview that might take 3 or 4 hours, so there's a lot of information there. A lot of work, and when I was leading the investigations or when I was working on the investigation, I was doing the summary of it. But when I was leading the investigations, I was getting people to summarise this. It might be a 50-page transcript. Summarise this in very condensed version, highlighting the key points or the areas that I might need, or the person running the investigation might need to pull from that statement or interview. That's done, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can see a space where we even, not now, but looking further, where your AI is actually there with you in the interview room, and you've got all your data sets there with you as you're asking the questions of the accused. The AI can tell you, hey, you're missing this piece.
And it could do it live. And I think the technology is even there to do that now, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just, again, building it so that it's secure, it's safe. The integrity piece is part of it. But you don't want to walk out of an interview room and go, I really forgot to ask that question.
Well, the skill of a great detective was to sit down. I always thought this was one of the most valuable skills a detective had, was the ability to extract information from a witness. And if you had AI sitting there, and you're my witness, I'm getting the statement, and sometimes you've been up for 24 hours.
That's right.
And, you're tired and getting the statement, and then you come back and I forgot that.
That's right.
You could have AI going, you haven't covered off on when he last spoke to the victim. There's something as simple as that.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right. It has a place for it. And you don't want to have to be going back to re-interview or take another statement. You don't want to re-traumatise the victims by going back, because every time you turn up on someone's doorstep, I'm back again. Oh, what do they want now? The anxiety, everything. So you're there once, you're there thorough, and the AI is looking at your entire case. And as you said, a very skilled investigator knew their whole case, knew everything in and out. But nowadays, how many are they working on at once? There's a human element that can forget that, but that's where AI has its real appetite to assist an investigator.
Right.
It's another tool, and I think if we look at it as another tool, it's going to be a great benefit to community.
Do you think that the law enforcement will embrace it?
Oh, look, I hope so. I really hope so. I think it'll free up time, but essentially the purpose is to identify offenders quicker than what we have been in the past. Who is this person? Do we use facial recognition technology? Do we use data sets of phone records or statement taking to help us better understand evidence and the case?
Well, to me, what you're describing and what AI brings to it, it'd be like if I hand-picked the world's best criminal investigation team and they're at my disposal.
That's the best way to look at it,
Yeah, I'm thinking with all that, some of the investigations, and even we were having a chat the other day, and I think we both carry the trauma from it, those late nights when a murder's happened or a serious crime's happened, and you need a listening device or something put in place, and you're sitting there at 2 o'clock in the morning typing up an affidavit that's going to be read by a Supreme Court judge, and how exhausting that was, and get it in the terminology that's appropriate, and you could actually blow the application if the judge gets cranky because you haven't laid it out properly.
Yep.
That could be done in a tenth of the time.
Oh, easy, and then some. Literally seconds for it to process all of the evidence that's in the system already and put out an affidavit in the right format. Then you just got to fact check it.
Yeah.
And have someone awake enough to make sure that it's fact checked.
You keep coming back to the fact check, and that's going to be the failings, isn't it? Because I would imagine one time something slips through the system and everyone goes, well, this is why we can't use AI. There's going to be a reluctance, and police will hide behind that, or law enforcement will hide well, you can't trust that because someone submitted a fax and it had the wrong name or something as stupid as that. That's what we've got to make sure.
Definitely.
So you need someone actually still putting a signature to it. You can't just go, oh, well, that was a computer, it's not our fault.
Yeah, and that's why you've got to work with law enforcement agencies, develop the policies and procedures that sit with the AI. Don't compete against it, let's work with it, and have your policies and procedures that talk to it. This is what I expect from you. So your supervisors are fact-checking. We're doing that now, aren't they? So
we had to, I'd have a junior officer prepare an affidavit, and I would have to sign it off before it was forwarded. And that was me fact-checking that the person knew what they were doing and it was truthful and accurate.
That's right. You just haven't got the poor young constable doing 4 or 5 hours on an affidavit.
I'm just thinking so much. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll break it down and talk about some investigations on how that could actually help. I'd like to look at the unsolved homicide, the cold cases too. My mind's sort of ticking over how I could play a part in that. But it is a brave new world, isn't it?
It certainly is, Gary.
And I think I might be able to do myself out of a job with AI, like as in hosting a podcast. Like nothing's off the table, is it?
No, that's right. And I think that's where everyone's a bit anxious and a bit nervous about what does that future look like. AI is replacing jobs, but
well, I want to talk about courts too, because I think that it's going to be a big change in court, not just the role of solicitors and whether it be defence or prosecution, but magistrates and judges and interesting. Okay, we'll be back shortly.